This is the stuff dreams are made of. I'm writer-collector Ryan Condal.
And I'm writer-collector Dave Mandel. Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Hey, Dave. It's spooky season.
It is spooky. It's getting there. It's getting there. We've got a giant skeleton in front of our house. One of these Home Depot, like 8-foot skeletons.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sold out in 4 seconds, like during the pandemic. And so I think we bought it for like $1 million, like on eBay to or Craigslist or something to make sure our house had one. So, but we've got one outside. It's great.
That's just solid investing.
Yeah, no, it's really smart, and it only goes up in value, like props. But it looks really good. It's out there right now, cool. And it looks really, really good. Yeah, no, it's good. We'll start with a little what's new in props, and I have something that's, I guess it is props related, but I don't know why. There's nothing spooky about it. Well, maybe a little spooky when you think about like what it costs. So I got this catalog today, and I don't know if you're getting their catalogs or on their list. I got a giant heavy box from Julian's, and I had no idea that anything was coming. I was not aware of anything coming up, and I opened it up, and it was this complicated thing to open up, whatever. And I open it up, and it's this big thing, and I see when I finally get it there, it's there's an auction of basically everything belonging to Kenny Rogers, who is not dead. He's still alive, but I guess he's de-ascensioning everything. Okay. And it's this incredibly heavy, very elaborate, sort of thing. And I go to open it up, and I sort of pulled it apart. So this is.
Oh my goodness.
On a warm summer's eve.
This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Is that coming from the catalog?
Yes. You open up the box, and Kenny Rogers sings The Gambler to you. It is the greatest thing in the world. And then there's 3 giant hardcover catalogs. If you like vests and waist shirts, this is the catalog for you.
I'm into it.
Yeah, I have to admit, I was looking for Muppets, like from his Muppet episode where he sang The Gambler. I was
Kenny Rogers Roasters?
Kenny Rogers Roasters, maybe something that Jerry had sent him or something like that. I don't know. None of that was in there. No. But what was in there
might actually be my favorite episode of Seinfeld.
Really?
Dave Mandel episodes aside. I just love that. I love the swapperoo of Jerry and Kramer and like how's life on the Red Planet. I Newman
it was
and all that.
That was a real story. That was there was a Kenny Rogers Roasters on like 71st and Broadway in Manhattan, and the folks living in the buildings, I guess connected like above it or something, were basically feuding with them over like the smell of the chicken and the lights, the neon lights. And it was a real story that I think saw in the New York Post. And I think it was Jeff Schaefer and Alec Berg, my old writing partners, that turned it into an episode. And it's pretty great. It's pretty awesome. Wonderful. Yeah. You know what is in the catalog, though, in case you were wondering? A Kenny Rogers photo matched Today Show bracelet with a note from Matt Lauer. So that's in there. No Muppet stuff, but you get a Matt Lauer autograph card.
What's Matt Lauer been up to?
What's he up to? He sort of fell away. He'll be surprised when he gets his catalog and the Gambler plays. Yeah. So that's my big what's new in props. But it really did put a smile on my face.
They do not send me physical catalogs. I think maybe they sent me the last physical catalog that was actually stuff that they thought I would buy, but Heritage, I get everything. I get every catalog that Heritage
I have always wondered about this, especially with the Julians, is to what extent does this fit into, and again, I'm not blaming Kenny Rogers, but is the catalog and the box and the music, whatever, because I've never seen one like this. I've seen heavy ones, multiple volume ones, but I've never seen one like this. Is this part of their sell? Like, does Kenny Rogers go with Julian's over any of the other auction houses or whatever, because there's and forgive me, there's no other way of saying this, an ego to having a
catalog
box that plays your song, The Gambler. And because honestly, I did look through it and then I recycled it, but honestly, I just at this point, are you keeping any catalogs? I mean, other than once in a blue moon, like the stupid X-Wing, I'm letting them go and I'm keeping PDFs. You know what I mean? I'm happy to have the PDF for my records, but
I keep all the physical prop store catalogs just because they're so beautiful, and I just feel terrible getting rid of them.
They're lovely. They're lovely. I'm not saying they're not. The catalogs are beautiful. It just, they seem, I guess I'm not, I'd be curious talking at some point when we have like various people from the different auction houses on. I'd love to know what they think the catalog does or doesn't do. If they feel like they are still getting traction from catalogs, and the appeal of the catalog, like I said, or the musical catalog to the consignor, is that part of it? Because again, I can't imagine. It seemed
I guess appeal to the
a big
consignor,
expense. This did not seem cheap, I guess, is where I'm going with it more than anything.
No, and I mean, even prop stores catalogs have not sung to date. Those things can't be cheap to not only manufacture, but just the layout,
the shipping. Well, what about the shipping?
Well, the shipping,
they're
right?
So heavy. The idea that you're doing international shipping, which has gone up so much in the last 2-3 years, the notion of shipping this giant. Yeah, exactly. And again, I know it's not free to everybody, but even if you're just sending it, quote unquote, I don't know, to your better customers, that's still a lot of. It just seems like a big cash layout, and obviously they're not stupid. They're running economics, and obviously it must be worth it to them. It's just, I don't know. I love the Kenny Rogers catalog. Kudos, Julian's. Yeah. I mean, if it makes me want to like sell my entire collection through Julian's, and when you open it up, I yell at you. It's like the catalog.
I was going to ask you what song would be in the Dave
I
Mandel
might sing
collection.
The Gambler as well, because I do love that song. So that's very possible. Yeah. So, yeah, I got to meet him many years ago. We shot something for him for the Harvard Lampoon magazine back when I was an editor on staff, where we were in Las Vegas, and we shot something fun with him where he basically was, sort of explaining the rules of how to gamble to us. It was very matter of fact. It was a lot of hold, fold, walk, run. It was the variations on
very
that.
Good.
But he was a very good sport, and I got rid of the catalog, but I kept the thing that sings, and I'm going to keep that for a very long time, and occasionally just hold it up to you at different times and let you hear it again and again and again, because I think it's good. Yeah.
Mine would be the Spice Girls.
Perfect. You're going to sing If You Want to Be My Lover, or I don't know.
Well, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, classy.
Anything new in props for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is somewhat Halloween related, sort of.
Sure.
But I managed to pick up a Tim Burton Batman slate clapperboard.
Really cool.
And Tim Burton is
right? Photo match.
Yeah,
yes?
I managed to photo match it to an archives photo, actually with Jack Nicholson in the photo, so it's as the Joker. Is very cool, and really thrilled. I have a clapper from the visual effects unit, so it's from JDC Camera. It's not one of the Panavision clappers, so it doesn't say the director's name on it. It's a smaller one, but this is great because I love Tim Burton, and just to have a proper Tim Burton clapper is very exciting. It pairs very well with my growing Batman collection, so I was excited to grab that. And that's as close as I think I can get to a Halloween prop, because
Halloween Town and all
Tim
that.
Burton,
that's kind of good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He is walking, talking Halloween. I'm good with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're on theme. You're on point.
Yeah. But and we've long been asked and sort of teased into by our fans to do a kind of horror show on horror collecting.
Yep.
And Dave and I were very interested in it, but I think because neither one of us particularly collect in that world, we didn't really know what to do, and
also we're not neither of us, and when we've talked about this before too, is neither of us are really horror guys. I mean, we love a lot of movies, and we definitely find our way to some horror movies. I know, but not a lot of them. I mean, we're not aficionados of the form, I think, in the way some people are. Some people obviously obsess on them, but I think there are people that just like, oh yeah, let's go see a scary movie, and that is just not what I'm ever interested in. So it's not my thing.
Yeah, but I like things like The Addams Family and Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean, I do gravitate towards those things that kind of, I don't know, the spooky world, that but I'm not lining up to go see The Black Phone. I mean, don't find that enjoyable.
But what I was going to say is I guess there are for me, great classic horror movies. I mean, obviously, when you get into, we can talk about like, the original Universal monsters, like, that for me, I love that. I think we've talked once before on the show. I also loved when they popped into the world of Abbott and Costello, which is not really technically horror, but still kind of horror. So Abbott and Costello meet, the Mummy and all of that kind of stuff.
Abbott and Costello were scared.
Costello in particular seemed very scared. That's what I remember. So I guess I do love all of that. I mean, so that's a starting point, in terms of, but I guess definitely while I have some art, I think I mentioned before from, I have a poster art from an Abbott and Costello, British poster for Abbott and Costello, Meet Frankenstein. Again, it's not, I guess, not something I've ever collected on, but I've definitely admired when people have had things, especially if they're related to like some of those classic horror movies. Not a lot of it out there, but I definitely have admired it. I've seen poster art and things like that. Odds and ends here and there. I feel like years ago they had some of the lab equipment from Frankenstein that got some piece or two that got sold. I mean, this is
that's cool.
A really long time ago. There are modern versions of things, like Coppola's Dracula that I dig a lot. Especially costumes and props from that are gorgeous. Again, not anything I collect, but I can admire it. I can admire them. But
you're a big American Werewolf in London fan, right?
I mean, that's true. That's true.
That would fit in.
It's sort of oddly enough, the pattern, not a shock, is I guess my horror has a little comedy in it, which I guess some of them do. But there's an element, but certainly Werewolf definitely has a good sense of humor to it. I think to me it does.
Yeah.
And obviously I love Jaws, which is a horror movie, but not necessarily the horror the way I think horror people regard horror, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking favorites, I mean, I would go to Alien, which I consider very much to be a terror film. I don't know, horror. I mean, it is horror. I mean, it is, but it's elevated, and there's the point of the idea behind the movie is not simply to scare you. There's an idea behind it. This idea of landing on an alien planet and finding a derelict ship from a lost alien race, and then introducing a biological organism into a place where it's never been. And there are science fiction concepts layered in that make my brain work and get activated. It's not just horrifying creatures jumping out of the darkness,
scare you or kill you.
A slasher film,
exactly. When I think of horror movies, I think of like being at a convention or even a horror convention. I've popped into one of those occasionally, and it's always just like guys I've never heard of that are beloved. Like it'll be a table of a guy I've never heard of, and he's got just a really long line because that was so-and-so, and he's under all of those, he's under all that makeup or the mask or whatever, and he's the guy. And I love it. I love the dedication. Again, just not my thing. And it's just sort of funny. But great prop movies, I guess, which is the ironic thing. I mean, just to loop it back to what we're actually supposed to be talking about. I mean, we always talk about real world movies, for all our whatever Godfathers and whatnot that take place in the real world that are very difficult to have something from, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I've got a suit. It's, Michael's suit or whatever we've talked about. But when you get into these wonderful horror movies and all of a sudden you add the element of, bloody shirt, knife, spear gun, axe, whatever, you're getting into some really wonderful props, which is kind of makes them really, really collectible in a wonderful way. So I dig that aspect of them,
there is unique, that thing that you always look for as a collector. Those movies do, just as science fiction and fantasy and genre films tend to produce. They produce unique objects that are bespoke, made just for that film, that are instantly recognizable. I mean, the Michael Myers mask, the Freddy Krueger glove, the Jason mask. Those are all things that, even if you're not a fan of that franchise, anybody can kind of recognize that walking into the room.
Yeah, I mean, I think since as long as I've been collecting Chucky dolls, just to pick something, and I don't own them, not bidding on them, but I appreciate seeing them in the catalog and the variations and whatnot. And you enjoy that part of the collecting world again, even though we're not collecting it. So I do think it's a target rich sort of like sort of world, which is kind of cool. Yeah,
it's funny you're talking about horror conventions. I used to go to this convention in New Jersey every year called Chiller Theater, which happened right around Halloween. And it definitely, there was a horror bent to it, but it was really a genre convention. So you could go and find interesting science fiction things and Star Trek things there or whatever. But one of the features of that convention, you probably remember this, is the Scream Queens. And it was like the women that had starred in these, like the trauma films and all that, the stuff that was sort of right on the edge of being kind of exploitation horror.
Right on the edge of like softcore.
Yeah. And they would just periodically just scream bloody murder at the convention. People would gather around to listen to the Scream Queen do her scream. And the scream was very impressive. And you'd be in the middle of a conversation, you just hear a woman screaming as if she was being murdered in the other room. Everybody would pause, take that in, and then continue their conversation.
Yeah, just back as if nothing was happening.
Fondly remember that.
I don't know if any of these, whatever, pick your show, whatever, Law and Order or whatnot, if anyone actually ever did a murder mystery at like a Chiller Theater convention where we heard the scream, but we thought it was part of the scream contest. You know what I mean? So like, 10,000 people at a convention and no one saw or heard, everyone heard it. No one saw a thing,
There was that CSI episode about the Star Trek convention, I think, where somebody
was there? I never saw that.
Somebody was murdered with a batleth or whatever the acceptable CBS knockoff version of the batleth was. That's a good one. I was trying to think, were there any horror Simpsons Seinfeld episodes? And I think of Mr. Marbles, the horrifying
Mr. Marbles, the
ventriloquist dummy.
Which that's a great sort of.
Do you have Mr. Marbles?
I do not. I was going to say that I feel like that's a dividing line. For some people, Mr. Marbles was one step too far. Like in the post Larry David time period, Mr. Marbles is like held up as like like Exhibit A.
They've gone too far.
Went too far. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fun thing about the show was always like the holidays didn't really matter. So I remember there was like the Christmas episode with like. At one point, they're all chewing gum or something, and it's just like, so it's just Christmas, and it's just us chewing gum. Anyway, it's just, I don't know, in a very funny way. There were not a lot of like special holiday episodes.
Lloyd Braun's Chinese gum.
Exactly. Yeah. I wrote years ago, I co-wrote a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, which I actually have. I have like one of their sort of limited edition, sort of like, I don't know, one of one cells from, which was kind of fun, which maybe is one of my better quote unquote horror props in my collection. If I was to really sort of, do I have anything horror related? And the answer is no, not much.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask is what do you have? Because I was sort of racking my brain for.
Yeah. I mean, again, I have something, Patch from Jaws, which again, if we're going to count that, I have in my comic art collection, I have from the comic book adaptation of Coppola's Dracula, which was done by Mike Mignola, who did design work on the movie as well, and then did the comic adaptation for Topps. I have a couple of really nice pieces from that, and I love the way that works. And in different places, Mike has told these wonderful stories about like literally having like dinner with like Coppola and Lucas, like while, sort of working on the movie or trying to work on the movie, which are just fascinating. I won't do them justice. So that's, horror adjacent. But no,
I think that's great.
Yeah. Actually, version. Yeah.
Speaking of art, I mean, I will never own one of these things just because they've gotten so crazy expensive. But one of the things that I would love to have from sort of quote unquote the comic art world is one of those great Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein pieces.
I have a Frankenstein piece in my collection. That's the other thing I was going to mention. Yeah, one of his the plates from his adaptation. Yeah, God, it's pretty insane.
Just amazing, and I just love those, and I think that would fit in nice to me again because Frankenstein, yes, it's a horror story, but I think the greater thematic underlying idea
the nature of man and humanity and whatnot,
and man playing God, and these bigger ideas make that a more exciting thing to me than being chased around with a machete. I don't really have any. I mean, it's funny because the things that I would quantify as horror movies, like Aliens and Alien, I have the good guys stuff. I don't have any of the face huggers or the eggs or the alien warriors. Although there was a point where there was an alien warrior around from Aliens that I was thinking about because man, would that be a cool thing to have crouched in the corner of your collection at some point? But it wasn't original enough and didn't work out. So that, I guess I got close there, but I don't even know if you would consider that a true kind of horror film. I don't know if horror fans would consider that a horror
Yeah,
film.
I mean, I'm trying to, again, I'm stretching the boundaries. I have some Planet of the Apes stuff, which is definitely
creature
scary-ish for its time, creature related. Cantina masks from, obviously, from Star Wars. There's
Those are
definitely
monsters.
a very rich sort of monster background. A lot of the guys that worked on that sequence,
Rick Baker,
Tippett, Rick Baker, John Berg, and whatnot. Those guys were sort of, they kind of rose up in the world of really being into all that like kind of crazy monster stuff. And this was in a way, their salute to it. It's why there's like a fly mask in there, that they kind of repurposed and whatnot, and it's sort of a werewolf one in there, and kind of the Cyclopsian guy, whatever. So there's definitely a Halloween horror-esque element to the cantina sequence. And certainly, not so cutesy as those sequences sort of became in sort of even Jedi and then the later prequels and sequels, where the aliens got cuter. They're closer to their horror roots, I guess I would say.
Yes. And even the way it's shot, it's more in smoke and shadow, and instead of these brightly lit creature farms.
Musical numbers. Yeah. But
so I mean,
I guess horror-ish. So again, I have some of that and designs and things.
I think monster creature stuff.
Right.
Is there anything that you would want that's out there that would be from a quote unquote horror film that's on the list?
Boy, it's tough, and I'm sure we're gonna get to our guests and talk about this stuff. But I love some of that sort of 70s horror. We've talked about it before, the kind of that kind of classic stuff. Again, like a Rosemary's Baby, a tough movie to have something from, but I do really love it. I mean, it's a great, great movie. For whatever reason, I actually recently watched it. Just one of those ones where I wasn't trying to watch it. It just sort of flipped on, and I watched it, just even though I've seen it a million times. And I don't know, every time I watch it, you notice something different. You know what I mean? Like some little piece of something that you just didn't see. And I don't know. It's so good. But again, I'm not saying anything that's new information. If I could have something from Rosemary's Baby, but again, another tough one of like, what would you have? You know what I mean? It's hard. You can't have the vitamin shake that Ruth Buzzy brings every morning. There's like the weird necklace that gives the girl that jumps out of the window and then gives to Rosemary. That's kind of cool. I mean, again, I can't swear I know exactly what it looks like, but that would certainly be something from that movie. There's the book that Rosemary's friend who gets killed leaves her, and the book has some writing and the pictures in it. If that was an actual practical prop, I mean, we're sort of playing the game without playing the game. But again, this is my taste in horror, such as it is, because I'm not looking for the classic stuff. I mean, I've seen some of it. I mean, I remember as a kid seeing like some of those other Jamie Lee Curtis movies, like Prom Night and stuff like that. And I saw them, and oddly enough, I saw them at the same, nostalgic age that I saw other movies that I am obsessed with. But I just, whether it was because they scared me or what, I have a fond memory of, I remember I watched it, but I don't have the fond memory of, I need to own something from Prom Night. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need to own the van from Prom Night, Yeah.
Yeah.
I think every one of those movies has a van that people are, about to have sex in and are killed for their, their whatever. I'll tell you this. I mean, again, we're talking about comedy. I really dig this, especially maybe the first two, the Scream movies. I think especially the first one and maybe the second one were really enjoyable. At some point I gave up, as did, I guess, a lot of other people. But the first one, really, really, really enjoyable. Those masks and things have been around, but again, not enough that I cared.
The way it subverted the genre. Yeah.
Yes. Loved the comedy, loved all of it, but just not enough to buy it. I don't know. It just, again, at some point you're not a horror person. That's okay.
Right. I go to fun stuff like I would love something from the original Addams Family. I would love something from Beetlejuice, which these are all, kind of.
But again, I feel like there's
horror.
an element of like, where like real horror people would just be like, you assholes, those aren't horror movies.
That's not
Didn't
scary.
name one horror movie. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Halloween movies, I guess. Here's one. I don't know if this fits into horror either.
I'll take something from The Shining. How about that?
There you go.
That's a horror movie,
yeah,
right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of Kubrick props just laying around, right?
Yeah. Look, my background. I also go to this little movie that I know you also like, that I don't know quite qualifies as horror, but I don't know what else it would be, is The Ninth Gate.
Again, lovely movie. We've talked about it.
Summoning the devil.
The devil in it and whatnot. But again, I feel like the purists would not care for these choices. Yeah. we are very much in the margins of horror. We are in horror marginalia. We're in the footnotes of horror. Yeah.
Support for The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in the men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, so join over 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code PROPSPODCAST at manscaped.com. And if my math is correct, that's about 12 million balls. So the next big prop store auction is coming up November 3rd to the 6th in London. It's actually a live auction. Very excited because it's my first official live London auction since in my time living here. Finally,
very, very cool. You guys can all meet up. You're going to meet some people. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a big European collectors summit. It sounds like a bunch of people are coming not only from London, the UK, and the surrounds, but Germany and France, and it's a real, it's going to be a real gathering. So very exciting. They're hosting it at the new BAFTA Center, the British Academy of Film and Television.
Very cool.
And which is at 195 Piccadilly. It's right in Piccadilly Circus, right near our post facility where we were, so I know exactly how to get there on the train. And they're mixing things up this year. Days 1, 3, and 4 are going to be the memorabilia, music, movie, and television memorabilia days. Day 1 being the bigger lots, and day 3 and 4 being the sort of more affordable stuff. But then day 2 is their dedicated music memorabilia auction. So they're tipping their prop store toes into the music pond this year. So very exciting. They have some neat stuff in that catalog.
So you can attend the big auction and actually maybe even meet Ryan if you go. There's going to be a total of over 1,500 items in this auction. The catalog is sitting on my table, and the table is slowly sinking into my kitchen.
Yeah, it's enormous.
It's so heavy. Prop costume highlights include a Christopher Reeve Superman costume, Darth Vader's screen-matched gloves from Star Wars, a full-size Johnny Five robot from Short Circuit, and the hammer-hiding Bible from Shawshank Redemption. On the music side, there's a collection of notable guitars and other memorabilia from Oasis, Beatles memorabilia, including George Harrison's Banjo-Lele, which I guess is like a part banjo, part ukulele.
Yeah.
Yep. And David Bowie's Major Tom spacesuit from the music video. Check out the catalog now at propstore.com. And one of the things that we love about Prop Store is how they're going to help you do your research. What do we always say on this show? Do your research. Yep. And they make it easy. Nobody's trying to trick you. They want you to be a confident bidder and to feel good about it. And they've got a whole bunch of ways that you can do your research. And I love all of them. Some I've done, some I haven't tried myself. But right at the top, number one is an office visit. If you'd like to take a trip out to Prop Store headquarters outside the countryside of London, you can schedule a time to make a visit to their Rickmansworth office to preview pieces in person prior to the live auction dates. Email support@propstore.com to schedule a visit. And what else can you do, Ryan?
They're also going to put up some videos and blogs. So PropStar has a number of videos and blogs that delve deeper into the specific items in the auction. You can check them out on PropStar's social channels as well as PropStar's YouTube channel. And there are these other great auction videos, which I love and always look forward to every time this comes around, that Adam Savage does for Tested.com, where he goes in and handles the wares and talks very excitedly about them and drives up the price on them.
Nerds out and drives up the price on
He
Ryan.
did a great video on the Batman spear gun the last time, and I was terrified because it had so many hits on the internet. I was terrified that he was going to gin up some bids against me, but I was lucky enough to take it down myself.
Luckily, he has an audience of non-bidders. But anyway, if you that same website I mentioned, that same email I mentioned before, support@propstore.com, you can just ask a question. If you have a question about something, a question about a screen match, a question about, hey, which movie was it used in? If you're not sure, or are there any other marks on it? Or can I see a picture an angle that you didn't see? You can just basically email them and they will get back to you. Plus, if you need a shipping quote, just click the Get Shipping Quote button that appears on each page after you've logged in, and they basically can tell you what it'll cost to ship the item to wherever you are. So that's pretty great too, so that you know all the costs going in. There's no surprises later, like, oh my God, I didn't realize it was going to cost that much to ship it because it's so big, or whatever it might be.
I didn't realize that Johnny 5 was that much to ship.
Yeah, it's
to Timbuktu.
That thing is pretty big, pretty big. The other thing, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to do the call to action, but
go for it, please.
Okay.
I was going to do one more. Okay. I was going to say the other thing I love is you can schedule with them a private virtual preview, basically a Zoom call where basically it would be like you and a person from Prop Store basically holding up the prop basically to the camera, like a private sex show, but with props. So I think that's how they want us. That doesn't say that on the form here.
I think that's definitely what they had in mind when they set that up.
No, I'm pretty sure that's what they were looking for. So go to propstore.com/live auction to schedule your private preview today.
And use
why,
all these,
Ryan?
Use all these different resources, including the sex show, to get all the info you want about the items you want to bid on the upcoming November 3rd to 6th London Prop Store live auction. And don't forget,
we've contest going on.
Prop Store Season 4, the Stuff Dreams Are Made of contest. So use your Dave 10 or Ryan 10. There is a second code. Discount code at propstore.com to get 10% off your buy it now
just
order.
Take out that Ryan 10 thing, please. Just take that out. Just edit that out. Please. But 10% off.
Remember who got you this job. And vote for your favorite podcast host at the same time.
Bart works for me now. We've moved in together too. He's got a ceiling fan. I love it.
He does have a nice ceiling fan. And your purchase qualifies for the grand prize of being a guest on the podcast at the end of the season. So enter today. But Dave, speaking of purists, that's why we have a guest for today.
We have a hardcore horror aficionado. And for Halloween, we thought it would be perfect thematically. I will also say, hold on, let me cue some horror music that I've prepared. Hold on a minute.
Spooky music. Terrifying.
Ow! 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 Ow!
This is really good.
Thank you.
It's top quality entertainment.
But we will point out. Oh, wait, it's not stopping. Now it's going to it's cursing me to play forever. Hold on. Okay, it stopped. I will honestly say he is going to talk about all sorts of great horror stuff, but also prepare yourselves because he has the scariest internet we've ever encountered in our lives. And we were not able to do any video feed of him, and he literally had to record it into his iPhone while we were trying to do the interview. It's that scary. That's how scary his internet is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
prepare yourself.
If you're watching this on YouTube, he will be a disembodied head talking about his collection, which is very fitting for this fine spooky season.
From the wilds, from the woods of Bavaria, which feels like like where like a Hansel and Gretel like witch would be or something like that. So again, maybe that explains the scary internet.
Yeah. But this is this collector that we've both known for a really long time now, named Mario Kirner. He got into he'll tell his whole story, but he got into collecting. He's been doing this for like 20 years and has the kind of definitive Friday the 13th collection and has curated it.
It's everything we just talked about not having. Basically,
correct.
He has, yes.
But done like a museum, done like the way a museum archivist would prepare a collection.
His Friday the 13th stuff better than I treat my Star Wars stuff, which is embarrassing. Yeah, no, it is a pleasure. His love of the material and the way he has gone about his collecting, his cataloging, and his presentation makes me care about Friday the 13th movies, and I don't care about Friday the 13th movies. That's the easiest way I can express it. So let's bring them out.
All right. We're here with Mario Kirner. I'm using his proper German pronunciation. I've been working on that all week.
Yes,
very excited to have him.
Coming all the way from Bavaria, our first guest ever from Bavaria. Although actually, I guess technically speaking, our first guest from anywhere, because most of our guests are just kind of like here in LA or I guess London. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, Tom Spina was in Long Island, so
yes,
which that's as exotic
as almost as exotic as Bavaria. So yes, it's good.
Yeah. Also very known for their cuckoo clocks, Long Island. Yeah. So thank you, Mario, for joining us. It's very good to have you.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to hear your podcast, and now being part of it is even cooler, of course.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And I believe here is the operable word. You will not be able to see Mario if you're watching on YouTube, because apparently something we've learned about Bavaria today, which is terrible internet. So that is now one of the things I know about Bavaria.
Actually, I think it's a Friday the 13th issue.
You think it's kind of a horror,
unlucky
kind of
issue? Yes,
bad luck, spooky
I
kind of thing.
So. I think so.
All right, fair enough. We're going to make it work.
You're going to be dazzled by photos of Mario and his collection while we're talking to him. If you're watching us on YouTube, it's amazing. It's Halloween. First of all, the spookiest podcast that Stuffed Dreams Are Made Of has ever done. So thank you for being our very first horror guest. We've been implored by a lot of listeners to do a horror episode. So here we are, guys. We're doing a horror episode. And we're talking to the guy who I think, to me, when I think of horror prop collections, I always think of you. I think I've always been amazed at how well curated your collection is and how fastidious you seem to be over some of the most horrifying shit I've ever seen in anybody's collection. And honestly, how well you display it. I just think the museum quality display aesthetic that you have is commendable, because it makes it look as what it is, which is these are important artifacts that are meant to be enjoyed and kept and preserved and for all of horror fandom history. So I mean, we're having you on because you're selling. We've talked about this in the lead up to this, but you're selling your collection. But we would love to know, how did this start? How did you get into movie prop collecting?
We know how it ends, but like, why horror? Let's just start there. What's the first horror movie you ever saw? Like, what do you remember as a kid?
The very first one it wasn't actually really a horror movie. It was Terminator Part 1. My dad recorded it from TV, and I got up really early in the morning when my parents were still in the bed. And I think it was 9 or 10, and I threw it into the video recorder, watched it until the scene when he's doing stuff with his arm, pulling the bullet out, and I was nearly done with this scene already. And after that, he goes to the mirror, and you know what happens? He's poking out his eye, and I was entirely done. I run upstairs to my parents' sleeping room, crying, and from there on, I wasn't allowed to complete the movie. And but a couple of years later, maybe 11 or 12, they allowed me finally to watch it to the end, and I was amazed from the special effect side of the movie. And of course, the gory scenes made it for me. And from there on, I always tried to find the hidden movie cassettes my parents had, like Poltergeist.
But you were
Friday
at that point.
13th,
You were already at that point just looking for the gore a little bit. You were looking for the horror, the scare, the forbidden fruit, so to speak. When did prop collecting kind of come into the picture? I'm assuming a little bit later, but like, what was the first? I assume it was a horror prop. Was your first piece of movie like memorabilia, or did you start with posters, or what's the journey there?
Yes, I started to look everywhere for posters and stickers and everything you can guess of, not only horror movies, but also science fiction stuff, but mainly horror, of course, like Nightmare on Elm Street, Terminator, and Friday the 13th were my focus. And after that, it started in the late 90s, I think. And during the 2000s, the internet became available for me, and it was a lot easier to get all the stuff like posters and stuff. And by accident, I found the website of Marcia, Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars in Los Angeles, yep.
Yeah. And I was amazed. You could own movie history, real movie history, like movie props and costumes. And I sent her an email if she got anything from my favorite movies, and she confirmed, yes, I have something here from Friday the 13th.
So at that point, when you were reaching out, Friday the 13th was already a favorite. That was like at the top of your list at that point. So on your
yes, absolutely, okay. Absolutely. Yep. But it was out of my price range. I was in my early 20s. And
do you remember what she had that you couldn't afford? What the piece was? Do you remember what it was?
It was an undermask from the movie Jason X that was filmed 2001.
Okay.
And she received it directly from the actor, and it was like 3,000 or something like that. She wanted for it, but it wasn't affordable. Is that correct?
Affordable.
For me. So I dislined and went on with my not replica stuff, but with video store stuff like standees, hangers, and all these items. And just 2 years later, I went to visit Hollywood with a friend of mine, and we went to the Universal Studios, and there was this huge show, this attraction, Waterworld. And right when you went into the show, on the right-hand side was a display pulled up with some props from this movie, like an arrow that he shot with a shark teeth and stuff. And I managed to grab one of these and put it into my bag and brought it home.
You're also our first guest whose first piece of movie memorabilia was stolen. That's fantastic.
Yeah. No, I brought it back, of course. A couple of years later, I brought it back and put it on the exact same space again. So
after you had molded it and cast it and sold dozens of copies on the RPF. Very good, Mario.
That was my very first item, I think.
Well, I hope the statute of limitations for movie prop theft has passed here in California. I don't know what law applies here, Dave. Are we in international waters? Is this a pirate ship?
I was going to say I'm pretty sure that when like the fact that it was sort of Waterworld just negates the entire crime. You know what I mean? That like that point they were just looking to write anything off they could.
That's right.
And, yeah, they were just thrilled to have like, oh, that arrow's missing. Maybe we can say it cost $40 million to get some
Great
of that
news,
budget
Bill.
back. Yeah. This has nothing to do with anything, but many, many years ago when I was at Saturday Night Live, I pitched an idea that there was just literally no way to shoot. It was going to be a Waterworld, like a Waterworld sort of, I guess, parody sketch where it was just very clear that like, you know how they're always like burning, you know, like paper is the most important thing. And it was just basically, it was just very clear that the reason the budget was so high was they were just like the paper was just, you know, bills, you know, like $100 bills. And it was just very clear that they just like were like using like millions of dollars of $100 bills on the set. And it just, there was no way of doing it. But anyway.
The fire doesn't look right unless it's a $100 bill.
We need to burn more $100 bills. Exactly.
Yeah. We started with Terminator, which I'm glad you brought it up because I had a similar. I think we're probably similar age, Mario. We're gentlemen in our 40s. I also saw a Terminator much sooner than I should have, and it horrified me, terrified me. I mean, my image of Arnold Schwarzenegger. It took me a long time to be able to see Arnold Schwarzenegger as anything but a murdering, killing machine. But I'm fascinated because it seems like that was your sort of, you know, Zen moment that made you a movie fan and a collector. What led you to Friday the 13th? Why wasn't it all about Terminator and Arnold movies?
In the 80s, my dad was able to buy the content from a video store with all the video cassettes, and he put all the horror ones aside and closed them away from me when I was 10. And it was always interesting when my parents were out to find the key, open the closet, and watch all the movie covers. Not watching the movies, but the movie covers, the slicks. And Friday the 13th had such a great cover here in Germany with a bed and the egg sticking in it and blood coming out from the pillow. And it looked kind of cool. So I was always interested in it. And of course, the movie title, Friday the 13th, in Germany, Freitag der 13. It was kind of interesting and stuff. And so, it went this way that I was interested from the beginning when I was the movie cover, when I saw the movie cover.
So that movie quickly became your absolute favorite, really.
Yes.
Once you
Yes.
and you finally, obviously, you've seen the movies. You at this point you've been collecting this stuff, but you have seen the actual movie, right? Not just the covers after all these years.
Yes, afterwards.
Just
when
checking.
I was,
just checking. Yeah.
The first real movie Friday the 13th that I saw was when I was 13. Kind of strange, 13.
There you
13,
go.
Of course.
Mario
my
the 13th.
Friend, yes. And it was part 6, was the very first one I saw, and I was addicted from this moment.
And even though you jumped in part 6, you were able to follow it, right? Yeah.
Yes. The strange thing is, my collection basically is from part 6 on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting.
Have you ever pursued? Have you ever cared about the earlier ones, or is it really the ones you saw?
Kind of. The earlier ones, prior to part 6, are their own breed. Let's call it this way. Part 6 on, Jason becomes a zombie and resurrected and stuff like that. And before that, he was a real human. And I found it much more interesting if a zombie is doing all the kills.
So the supernatural element, when it gets a little crazier, I guess. The earlier version is a little more lunatic in your summer camp backyard or whatever. I do not like horror movies. I'm a big scaredy cat. Let me start by saying that. Like, I don't like that sensation. But you love that. You clearly love that sensation.
No, not really.
No.
What I don't like is movies like The Exorcist and stuff like that are really scary. I like the fun point of
But see, I like The Exorcist, which is really scary, but nobody jumps out at you. I can't take the jumping. It's like it's the like that is the thing that like I don't enjoy. And I've always sort of like, to me, the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life is Large Marge in Pee-wee's Big, like that. That has scared me to this day. I like went up on the ceiling like a cat with my like hands and feet into the ceiling, like I do not enjoy that feeling at all. And my kids, who are now like 13 and 14, all they want to do is watch like It and all of these, and like they've watched all the Friday the 13th, and it's just like I'm just like no. I do not like it. I mean, I don't collect on it, but oh God. But okay, so you just that's your thing. That's okay.
But I think you like slasher films. That's
slasher film. Yeah, that's what I like. Yeah. Not this jump scare stuff and ghosty stuff and horror. Ghost house stuff. I hate this, especially when it comes down to demons and devils and.
But you like the supernatural element of the Friday the 13th 6 on, which is more
like slasher movies.
I think you gotta get your story straight, man. I think you're all over the place.
There are 12 movies all
over the road
together, and they plan to do a 13th one, but the lawsuit works against it, and it's kind of settled, I think now, but nothing is going on.
Seems like a lost opportunity to not do Friday the 13th Part 13.
Yeah,
I mean,
Friday the 13th,
13th part.
Yeah.
Or just X33, right? X123, like that would be the one. Wait. I have a question.
Yes.
You don't have anything from before 6 on. Is that stuff around?
No, I have actually.
You do?
But not too much. Yeah, I have a shirt from part 3.
Okay.
But not from Jason, but from a different character. There isn't really a lot around. These were really cheap productions, and stuff was thrown away, and parts of them weren't even extra pieces available, just one shirt for one character, and that's it.
Well, here's a fun fact for you from young Ryan Condal's childhood. My Cub Scout camp, the campaway, was the original Crystal Lake in New Jersey.
In New Jersey?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've slept.
Does it still look like?
Well, I don't know, because I'm also a scaredy cat, and I was fucking terrified of those movies as a kid.
Well, what would happen if you were at the camp and looked at it like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No one had the decency to tell me, and I went away to this thing. And then when we got there, the other kids told me that we were at the Friday the 13th camp. And this is at a time when I can't really separate reality from movies and all that. I was absolutely terrified to be there.
So you was bathing in the same water as Jason?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And they're like,
they are organizing
where he
tours
came out of the
there,
water.
so you can stay there for nights and
they let people go on like
stuff.
fantasy trips to the camp. That's funny.
Terrifying.
So Friday the 13th and is obviously the focus of the collection, but did it go into other horror movies for you, like, or in terms of like collecting, or did Friday the 13th sort of quickly become the sort of be all end all obsession?
No, it started out pretty colorful. Let's name it that way, with different movies, especially Terminator and Nightmare on Elm Street. I tried to get cool pieces from all the movies I loved, but in the end, it went too big and too expensive. So I decided to focus on one franchise only, and it ended up to be Friday 13th. I also had stuff from newer movies like Death Proof with Kurt Russell. I had his hero car and the costume worn by Kurt Russell, and Freddy Glove, all kind of stuff.
Somewhere in there, though, the Friday the 13th, I guess in a good way, obsession started moving into like doing a book and all of this stuff. And in a way, I guess one of the things, and we talk about this in the sort of prop world in general, the microcosm of your Friday the 13th collection has really shown just the changes in prices, really. I mean, we hate talking about prices on the show, but I'm assuming earlier on, obviously once you had actual money in your pocket, these things were more affordable. And over the last couple of years, even these like later Friday the 13th movies have just started to like, we're seeing numbers where you're just going like, wow. Which I guess, I don't know, did it lose a little fun with the numbers kind of getting crazier for you? Or it's something we talk about from time to time?
It's absolutely okay, man. The first, or one of the first hockey masks that I bought was from Part 6, and I was asked to pay $2,500 for it. And
outrageous.
After I pointed out that it comes without the leather straps, just a hockey mask, the seller went down to $2,000 for it. So we agreed, and this was one of my earlier hockey masks that I owned. I still own it.
That's great. And you've also done another thing that I've been impressed with, which to me is a juxtaposition against, I might be stereotyping and generalizing horror collectors. I apologize if I am. But a thing that kind of cuts against the grain with what you normally see with this collecting is the level of research that you've put into it and matching your pieces. I mean, you can tell even looking through the prop store catalog at these high-end lots that you're selling, the amount of research that you've clearly put into it. I'm sure Prop Store backed it up and looked at it, but is really impressive. Was that first thing that you got? Were you able to screen match that? Did you screen match it later? How did that all go down?
Most of the pieces I was able to screen match later because when I bought from industry sources, sometimes I didn't even receive pictures at all from the pieces before I bought it. And but actually the very first item that I bought was a fake hockey mask sold to me as screen used. And this is what made me so specific with screen matching and authenticating everything first.
It's a terrible story, but it's a great story only in that it's sort of like having that early not good experience.
And it came from an industry
changed
source, by the way.
Yes, the great, right. But great things sort of came from it because you kind of really learned to do it all. It's sort of an interesting way.
It made it for you, yeah. So I mean, let's cut to it. Why are you selling? I mean, you've done all this work. You clearly have a passion for this hobby, these films in particular. You've come around. The day has come. What's the reason?
If you take it this way, collecting Friday the 13th took me 20 years. That's exactly half of my life. So I'm not only selling my collection, but really my passion, my time, my money that I spent over the last 20 years. It's a massive thing for me, and of course it took me quite some time to pull the trigger in the end. And there are different reasons. Maybe the family reason. I happily got 3 girls now, and a wife, of course, coming with it. And the focus just changed in my life. And of course, the financial situation that we got over the last 3 years with Corona and the energy crisis. There are a couple of reasons that moved me to sell my collection. And my dream has always been to sell everything to one single next collection, like a museum or a private collector. But sadly it didn't. It doesn't come this way.
If you don't mind me asking, did you pursue it at all? Did you try? Did you reach out to anything or anyone, or not so much? It was just too hard.
There's one collector or a person known who does own a couple higher expensive items I contacted, but he was only interested in some selection of items.
He just wanted cherry picking.
Yeah. I will say, Mario, if you have a family of 5, you're only one short of a whole hockey team. So
yes,
just pointing it out.
Have you I don't know how old your girls are. I'm guessing they're younger. Have they watched any of the Friday the 13th movies yet? And when will you let them watch it?
Not really. The oldest one is 6, but all of them know my collection pretty well. They actually played in the same room with their Barbies.
So maybe they wouldn't even think it's scary when they get around to seeing it. Like it'll just be kind of like,
no, absolutely not. Yeah. They are asking me all the time where my puppets went.
Are you planning? Because I spent a lot of time, sort of engineering my entire life to show my kids Star Wars at age 7, which is when I saw it. So do you have a master plan, like the oldest girl turns 13 and then we watch it, or then we watch the Terminator, or do you have a secret plan that your wife has no idea?
Start showing her VHS boxes.
I already working on it actively. I have a video store kindish room built up at my home. With all the movies that I grew up, also the horror movies, and have a kids section. And there actually are movies in today's view that I wouldn't allow smaller kids to watch, like Never Ending Story or stuff like that. But now she turned 6 and she's allowed now to watch these kind of movies.
I will also say I have I have kids similar to your age. It's also 2 girls. And we have I've had this, it's like, I think it's my oldest, I think it's now presently the oldest thing that I have in my collection, my Gollum statue from that was built by Weta as it's not screen used, but it's from the theater promotion for around Two Towers. But it was, the interesting thing about it was that there were 600 or 700 of them made, and they were only made for the biggest theaters that showed the Two Towers. And they had this theater standee, and if you walked past it, Gollum would talk to you and all that. But I have the statue as made by Weta, and it's part of the family. It's moved to every house that we've had. It's lived in New Jersey and New York and California. And now it lives with us in London, and we dress him up at holidays. So every holiday season, he wears a different hat and all that. And he sits on the landing of one of the stairways, and people come in the house, and he's always there, so we just forget about it, and freaks people out, electricians and plumbers and grown men startle at it. And my 5-year-old will go, "Oh, that's just Gollum." Get over it, you wuss. But
they're getting used to this stuff. I mean,
exactly.
My video store room is built up with life-sized horror standees, and it doesn't matter. It's not scaring them at all.
Well, hey, let's just talk about some of the stuff that you're actually, I guess, getting rid of. That's sort of the more premier pieces. As somebody who's not seen any of these movies, but obviously I know who he is, I was kind of fascinated by, there's sort of 3 main, I guess, hockey masks that that are in the day one section of the auction. And I was really fascinated by the differences, both in, I guess, they all look sort of the same kind of, but even within them, it's sort of like there's one that's really kind of cracked, which is from, what can I say?
Freddy vs. Jason, probably.
Yeah. No, Jason Lives, which is that one.
The first one that got the crack on the cheek side.
Yes.
Yes.
is any of these like your? Is there? Let's start with this. Is there a favorite piece that you're getting rid of? If you had decided to hold on to one thing, is there something you would be like keeping if you decide to keep one back? Or
yes, indeed. One of the things I always planned to keep, if I would ever sell the collection, is the full costume from Jason Goes to Hell. Actually, the lesser famous movie when it comes down to the fans of the series. But I like the design from everything, from his hockey mask, his costume. And you can see the shirt in this part, in this day one auction. The rest is coming at the later auction.
Was there thinking behind breaking it up?
I thought about it, but finally decided to let everything go at once. It's like a drug addicted. When I sell only one piece, I would try to get it back later on to complete my collection again, and it wouldn't make sense.
This is the full cold turkey, I guess. Of we're just done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you imagine you're going to collect any other movie props down the line, or are you saying goodbye to collecting as well? Do you feel like at this
Not
phase
really.
of your
There
life?
are still pieces I was looking for over the 20 years, besides Friday the 13th, of course, like the Cosmic Key from Masters of the Universe. It was always high up on my list, and actually some of them showing up, a stunt version as far as I know, also a hero version, and I totally forgot a bit, to be honest.
So perhaps 20 years from now, the big Masters of the Universe sale, or who knows?
There is a collector here in Germany who's known for his immense Master of the Universe screen use collection.
And he's seen the movie?
This guy? Don't you like this
He
movie?
saw the
Really?
same movie that I saw? He saw that?
My co-host is making a joke, perhaps, about the quality, the perceived quality of the Masters of the Universe movie.
I love this movie. Dolph Lundgren, awesome.
Mario, I'm kudos to you. I think being able to break yourself from the sickness is a commendable thing. I don't know if either of the people that have now started a podcast that costs them time and money gains them really nothing, other than the vanity and pleasure.
Truly, no, I'm not even sure there's vanity at this point. Yeah,
of hosting it.
it just sort of is. Yeah,
we will never be free of this thing, but I think as Edward Norton told us, or I think actually Brad Pitt told us in Fight Club, the things you own end up owning you. And that is the lesson of collecting as you move on down the years and have to insure it and protect it and preserve it. So credit to you for kind of reaching nirvana, so to speak, and then deciding to move on.
Yeah.
We wish you luck in your sale.
Thank you.
We'll be there and watching. I think you will also be there and watching. I imagine. Are you coming to London for the auction?
Probably not. I'm fearing I'm getting a heart attack when I attend the live auction.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will be there.
Will you watch
live.
online, or will you just sort of go try?
Watching online, but
because there's a version where like you go to the zoo that day and you just kind of come home once it's
Send me an invoice.
done. Yeah, and it's just sort of like, how did it all do? Okay, I'm good. You know what I mean?
I still want to be part of it, actually. Watching the live auction, but always with my hand on the lid of the laptop so I can close it every time I want if it's getting too hot for me.
Just like a horror movie. I'll be there. I'll be pulling for you. I think your stuff is going to do very well. I think it's a well curated first salvo into this. And obviously we just a couple of years ago, one of the masks did 6 figures, right? I mean, it really kind of broke ground, set new precedent.
Yes. It was 1.5 years ago when it was sold in London, I think.
Was that the beginning of the end for you? Like, is that when, were you already thinking there might come a time, or did that push you over the edge?
Yeah. It was throwing hints to me that probably it's the time to let everything go. And as you said, stuff isn't growing on trees from this series. So, releasing everything now, it I'm curious if it goes well or if it's too much for the market at once.
It's also, I mean, again, I don't know these movies. It's also different looking. I mean, again, I'm looking at the titles, the various machetes, the different levels, and obviously, again, I don't know what's happening in any of these things, but you can sort of see the progression, which again, I guess makes them all really. I mean, they're all really unique things. I guess
different
it's a very
production
odd
companies,
thing.
different effects guys. Result is different props, different look of the props.
And what they do with the Jason character, which is kind of funny. You have an all-time favorite movie at this point of them all, like an absolute favorite?
Part 6
favorite?
maybe.
Still 6
prop-wise or from the movie-wise?
I guess both. What's the why one, why the other?
As mentioned, Jason Goes to Hell, because I love this design the K&B effects company did to him. And movie-wise, I would say Part 6, the very first one that I ever saw. It's so 80s-ish. You know, it's the soundtrack made by Alice Cooper, or parts of it at least.
Should we play the game, Dave? I mean, I don't think we can do Friday the 13th because I don't know that you or I are as conversant in it. And Mario,
I think Mario already has most of it. Yeah,
yeah.
He already had most of it. Yeah,
I think we need to center in on a movie that we've all talked about in this podcast, but haven't really spent any time on, which is The Exorcist. So, to me, the greatest horror movie of all time.
Yeah.
If you can have anything from The Exorcist, what would it be, Mario?
For display reason, I wouldn't choose the cross she's using. It's pretty hard to get a proper display done, probably. I don't know. Maybe a can of soup.
You get the cross, and as we like to say, you build the bedroom around it. You build a replica bedroom around
yes.
it. Yeah. All right, so not the cross.
Not the cross, but
okay. Well, then her costume with the green stains, maybe.
I feel like there's probably a good sort of like, makeup piece of her face when she's got the full. I don't know if it still exists or not. But you know what I mean?
But makeup, it's falling apart. So
it is, but maybe
really
if it existed, if it could be preserved, it's very, I don't know, jumps out at you. There's that little statue of, I don't know I can't remember the demon name. Pazuzu, yes, exactly.
Baghdad.
That thing's kind of cool looking.
That's a great call.
Mm-hmm.
That could be really interesting. I mean, it certainly would be unique and a unique prop to that movie. And again, I don't know how many they ever made or anything like that, but that could be. I'll go there. Yeah.
Wasn't her tongue showing up at one of the recent auctions?
Oh god,
it was like a forked tongue or something, like a longer tongue or something.
Yeah, a little longer and tippy. Tippy.
That's
tippy the right word?
The technical term. Yeah, I don't know. I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what they would call it. But more pointed, maybe longer and pointed.
Yeah.
The Pazuzu is a great call, Dave. I think that to me, other than any kind of makeup effects, would be the one. This is a movie where I go to original poster art, and I was wondering, is that art or is that a photo? Because I can see the art in my head that Max von Sydow's character walking into the house, sort of shrouded in that kind of green light with the lampposts and all that. But I'm wondering if that was actually a treated photograph at that point.
Yeah, I mean that would be my guess, but again, don't know. But certainly an evocative poster, obviously. Yeah.
My backup prop answer is going to be, I imagine, because it's in his hand the entire time, is the Bible. Mm-hmm. And I think the sort of the light versus the darkness, there's a big Holy Bible prop coming up in this prop store auction. We could do a whole collection of Holy Bible props from movies, but I feel like there's I don't know. I feel like there's probably a screen matched version of a Bible or something that was used. The weapon against the devil would be something interesting, but it's cool because to me, that's always the film that I go to that is actually a horror film that I find terrifying. And then I have revisited, but it's a tricky one to collect from. It's just, it's a hard movie.
That and Rosemary's Baby, that sort of, 70s horror, but not but almost like,
or the Omen the same.
Yep, the Omen too.
The Omen had the Megiddo daggers.
I was gonna say it has the knife, the dagger.
Yeah. Which one of those went very highly in a recent auction. So at least there was that, But Exorcist is a tough one. Anyway.
One of the cool things about The Exorcist, when I watched it the first time, it was on video cassette. It was the old release with this one scene missing when she's coming down the stairs backwards.
God, the spider walk.
The kind of spider walk.
Yeah. And it was cut out of the video cassette release. And I watched it like 20 times, this movie, and I was so safe with this movie and everything. I had my girlfriend back then over with me, and we lent out the DVD. And from there on, this scene was included, and I didn't know it. And I was like, "Oh my God, what is that?"
It's kind of nice that you were able to get scared by a movie you knew really well. That it kind of changed enough. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And she's opening her mouth, and blood comes out, and I was so done.
It's terrible. Yeah. I was going to say it's like when I watched the special edition of Star Wars. Thank you, Mario. This was really great, and I think instructive, and hopefully it scratches the itch for some of our collectors who wanted to hear a horror podcast. I think we'll cue our little werewolf howling at the moon sound again here, because we want to remind people this is our spooky Halloween podcast. But this was great. Congratulations to you. Good luck to you.
Good luck in advance, but hopefully congratulations too.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us. And we will talk. We're going to talk more in detail about the prop store auction catalog next week. So join us in. We'll do our deep dive on the catalog. And in the meantime, please subscribe. Rate us 5 stars. Follow us on social media at PropsCot Podcast at all social media channels.
Yep. And you can email us at
something
at something.
Dreams are made of podcast at gmail.com. This is episode 40 something. It's great. Thank you. And as always,
dreams are made of podcast at what? Say it again.
Gmail. It's Google's mail service.
I'm going to try and remember the Gmail part. That's what I'm going to work on first.
Thank you to Mario Kirner, Friday the 13th collector. Download the Prop Store catalog. It's available now. Check it out and bid early and often next week. And we'll talk to you then on The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Auf Wiedersehen.